Online Congress. I am really happy to be here and to share the following 20 minutes with you. Today, we are going to talk about the extended culture to blastocyst. Sorry, I was told to introduce myself. I forgot. So I'm Dr. Damian Gluchowski from Sehir, Argentina. I am part of the Eugene group. And yes, I am an editor and reviewer of Cochrane. So yes, I'm going now to the presentation. We are going to talk about the extended culture to blastocyst. So the question was, is it an add-on or is it a routine practice in IVF? Well, even when I searched a lot about this, it is not an easy question to answer. And it is probably because there is not enough information to give a full answer or a definitive answer. So we will go through this question over the next few minutes and try to see when we can say that going to extended culture to blastocyst is okay, and where we don't have enough information yet. I have no interest to disclose. Everything I will show will be based on the best available evidence that I found. And there is another important thing that I would like to say, that is shared decision-making process is an important thing. And it is when you share the information with the patients. And it is related with this because whenever we talk about routine, that means that we are not going to talk a lot with our patients. It is something that we are going to say and they will probably do. But I want to share this information with patients because it is not only about effectiveness. We are going to talk also about safety and quality of evidence and costs. And those are things that patients should give some input on. So routine or add-on? Okay, I will try to show you the best available evidence. However, as I told you, I'm not sure if it will be enough because when you have the best available evidence, it's not the full evidence, or it's not the full information that you want to have to make a decision. But also, there was a concept I told you a minute ago about routine that made me think further, because routine takes patients out of the decision, and I think that they should participate. So let's go step by step. The first question is effectiveness or efficiency. Sorry, efficacy. Is it more efficacious to transform blastocyst stage than cleavage stage? And if that is true, is that true for any patient in any IVF program? So let's go to see what is that evidence that I found. So the main concept to discuss today is the magnitude of the benefit, if any, and the quality of the evidence, and then the external validity, generalization. That means setting and population, and we are going to talk about both of them. And finally, safety. So we cannot make a decision just because it is more effective. We have to consider all these topics, all these concepts, to finally make a decision. So what about efficacy, magnitude, and quality of the evidence? I made a search in PubMed just for systematic reviews for the last 5 years, and I found 3 systematic reviews. The one that we published, the Cochrane one, this one is now on the editorial board, so it has been updated, but the results were not published. So I am going to show some of these unpublished data that will be probably published very soon, and also a little bit about the other two systematic reviews. So these are the results coming from the systematic review that we did and published in 2016. And it shows that for live birth rate, this outcome is improved when you transfer on blastocyst stage. So as you can see, the odds ratio for this is 1.48 from 1.20 to 1.82. It included 13 studies, but the quality of the evidence was low. So it suggested a benefit of transferring on blastocyst stage. When we updated this information, the new policy in our Cochrane group was just including for the primary analysis only those studies that were low risk of bias or some concerns risk of bias, but not for high risk of bias. So when including these studies, we just included 9, and the quality of the evidence was moderate. And still, we can say that the odds ratio favors the blastocyst transfer, 1.26. So by now we should say, or we can say that we are pretty sure, or it is very probable, that is the right word, that blastocyst stage increase the live birth rate. When we analyze the first plot, you can see here the first plot for that odds ratio 1.26, and you can see that we didn't include those that are in red that have a classification of overall high risk of bias. And here we can see that it favors day 5 or day 6 embryo transfers. This is a second systematic review that I found published in the last 5 years, but it didn't include randomized control trials. So that is why we are not going to discuss about it, because the quality of the evidence is usually low or lower than a systematic review that includes randomized control trials. The third one is a systematic review published by the team of Martins, Rakowski, and it is a really good one. As you can see here, the risk ratio is 1.10. Again, it shows that it could probably benefit the blastocyst transfer, but the confidence interval is too wide to say that. A couple of things to consider here is that the included studies were very heterogeneous, and it is really difficult to make a conclusion or retrieve a conclusion from a first plot when you have that heterogeneity. But it is something to be considered as well. However, if you take those studies that were published in the last decade, and why should we do that? And probably because the culture media changed in the last years, and you can say that we are more prepared to transform blastocyst stage in the last years than at the 20 years ago. You can see that those studies show a benefit for transferring on day 5 or day 6. So this is what we have by now for live birth rate and pregnancy rate. So there are many but heterogeneous studies, as you could see. The quality of the evidence is low to moderate. And we could say that the blastocyst transfer may increase the live birth rate and the clinical pregnancy rate. But as I told you at the beginning, it's not everything about effectiveness on live birth rate. We should consider some other things. One of them is cumulative live birth rate, and this should be even a more important outcome than live birth rate. However, as you can see here, the confidence interval is too wide, it goes from 0.74 to 1 to 1.61. And then, and it is very heterogeneous. So it is really difficult to retrieve a conclusion from here. The quality of the evidence is very low, so we cannot say anything right now about cumulative live birth rate. To make a brief conclusion about this, there is scarce information about the comparison of day 3 to day 5 in cumulative live birth rate, and the quality of the evidence is very low to say something about this. So what we need is more information. When we don't have enough information about cumulative pregnancy rate, embryo freezing could help, because when you have more embryos that are frozen in one and less in the other one, we could think that it could help to improve the cumulative pregnancy rate. Is that true? I don't know, but it is a proxy, and it is something that we should consider for the future. So in this case, we can see that on day 2, day 3, we have much more embryos that are frozen than in day 5, day 6. Is it good? Is it bad? I'm not sure. The evidence of cumulative live birth rates, as I told you, is scarce. We have more embryos to freeze on cleavage stage, but does it mean more babies or just more frozen embryo transfers? It's not clear. We don't have that information, and we need that information to have a more definitive conclusion about this. A paper published by Simone Cornelis and Sebastian Mostenbroek a couple of years ago said something like this: an informed decision between cleavage stage and blastocyst stage transfer in IVF requires data on the transfers of frozen thaw embryos. And I thought that it was important to say this here, because that is what we need to finally say if it is better to transform blastocyst stage or on cleavage stage. But this is not all I want to say today. We want to talk about subgroups and settings, and what is the impact of transferring blastocyst stage in different subgroups and in different settings. So is a blastocyst transfer more effective than doing it on day 3? Well, that question is not enough to say that we should use it routinely. As we saw in the previous slides, it could be more effective in general, but routinely means in every patient, and in every clinic, and in every type of treatment. So we should see if maybe in general, transferring on blastocyst stage could be better than transferring on day 2 or day 3. However, we should evaluate it in different subgroups and in different settings to say so. Do you know any intervention that is the best for everyone? Probably not, but again, we need that information to finally make a conclusion. So main concepts to discuss today, as I told you, were magnitude of the benefit, quality of the evidence, and then external validity, generalization, so setting and population. So let's talk about this. Routine versus add-on. So setting, embryo lab characteristics. We know that different embryo labs have different blastocyst rates, and the success of a blastocyst embryo transfer is different probably in different embryo labs. And also we could have different results in different patient subgroups, and also in different type of treatments. So it is not the same if we do PGTA, for example, or if we don't. We need to transform blastocyst stage in one case, and maybe no. And we can discuss if it is important if we don't do PGTA. So let's talk about the setting. Is my embryo lab prepared for this, for transferring on blastocyst stage? So when we talk about embryo lab, we are talking about IVF culture conditions. So embryo culture, workstations, handling practice, culture media, lab equipment, calibration, certification. Every embryo lab is different, and results are different in different embryo labs. And I wanted to show you here a known experience, what happened to us in our international egg donor program. We used to transfer until 2014 on day 3, and our live birth rate at that moment was 52%, and the blastocyst rate was 10%. And at that moment, our embryo was not prepared to go to blastocyst, and we didn't transfer on blastocyst stage as a routine. However, we made huge improvements at the embryo lab at that moment, and we started transferring on day 5 as a routine in our egg donor program at that moment, and our live birth rate went to 62, and our blastocyst rate was 45 at that moment. So it is a very clear and simple sample to show that an improvement in an embryo lab could make a huge difference in the results. And in this case, it was probably a bad idea to transfer on blastocyst stage in 2014, but it was really a good idea to transfer on blastocyst stage on the following year. So setting is important. What about population? Is a blastocyst transfer the best option for all the patients? Well, is it good for any type of patient? We don't know that. We don't have that information, but we need it. Is there any good quality evidence on this decision in a specific age or according to the number of available day 3 embryos? This is what we have from our systematic review. And as you can see, in good prognosis patients and in selected patients, it looks like transferring on blastocyst stage is a good idea. However, we are not so sure in poor prognosis patients. There, we only included 3 studies. We only included for the primary analysis 1 of them, and it shows a really large, very wide confidence interval. So it is difficult to say anything, to say something about the poor prognostic patients. So I was not the only one who asked this question. There was a study that was published a couple of years ago. It was published by this author, Joyce Zhao. I expect to pronounce it well. And she asked, what should we do if we have only 1 available embryo on day 3? And what she showed, or what they showed in that article, is that in a logistic regression analysis, results were much better when you transferred on day 3 than transferring on day 4, 5, or 6. Is it enough to say that we should transfer on day 3 when you have only 1 available embryo? No, it is not. It is just a retrospective study, which could be a good idea to then analyze a little further and see if it is really like this in a randomized control trial. But still, it is a good study, and we should consider this information. And here we have a protocol that was published by Dr. Alan Penzias. It is about non-inferiority of cleavage stage versus blastocyst stage embryo transfer in poor prognosis IVF patients. And this is a randomized control trial. And what they are going to do is to include only those patients with 5 or less zygotes, and they are going to randomize those patients and see if transfer on day 3 or on blastocyst transfer could make any difference. So we will have this information, but unfortunately not yet, and not until 2023, according to the published protocol. What about safety and costs? Well, the importance of sharing the decision with patients is that they are going to pay for this, and they are going to eventually have the complications. So mainly, let's talk about cancellation rate and complications, and we can see that the cancellation rate, both in our review published in 2016, which the odds ratio was 2.5, and the one that we are going to publish now, the updated one, is 2.08, and it shows that cancellation rate is much lower when you transfer on day 2, day 3. Is this enough information to transfer on day 2, day 3? No, it is probably not. But this is something that should be discussed with our patients. What about monozygotic twins? Well, there is a low quality evidence showing that it is increased in blastocyst transfer. And there is this is a systematic review coming from observational studies, but still it is seen not only here but also in some other systematic reviews that I will show you later. What about very preterm birth before 32 weeks? Well, we found in different systematic reviews low quality evidence showing that very preterm birth could be a little higher in blastocyst transfer when you compare to day 3 to cleavage stage transfers. And it was published in 2013 and in 2016, and it was also seen in a systematic review published in 2018 when they transfer in fresh. This was not seen when they transferred frozen embryos, but well, this is just something that we should see more in the future when we have more information. Perinatal mortality, we don't have enough information. The quality of the evidence is low to very low, and it doesn't show any difference between day 3 and day 5. So we have some uncertainty here. There was also a study that was that compared obstetrics outcomes between cleavage stage and blastocyst transfer, but it was according to patient's willingness. I mean, the decision to transfer on day 3 or day 5. And what they found here again is that monozygotic twins rate was increased on day 5, and they also found that there was no differences in preterm birth rate. It is preterm in general, and I want to mark here a difference between this and what I showed before that was very preterm birth, and there was no differences in fetal malformation rate. Finally, I want to talk a couple of words about transfer on day 5 or day 6, and 2 systematic reviews were published in the last couple of years. They were observational studies. They show a little benefit for day 5, and this is another systematic review. It is a cumulative meta-analysis for live birth rate showing also a benefit for day 5. Again, from observational studies. So these are observational studies. Some of them are frozen. They are frozen transfers, and 3 of them are including euploid only embryos. And in all of them, day 5 were better than day 6. Still, we need better quality information to finally again retrieve a conclusion from here. So in summary, a fresh blastocyst transfer probably increases the live birth rate in general population. However, we have some doubts about the effectiveness in cumulative live birth rate, which is probably a more important outcome. And we should note that freezing rate is higher in cleavage stage. But as I said before, we are not sure if this is a good news or bad news, because it just increases the number of frozen embryo transfers. Besides, we don't have much evidence in some subgroups, like, for example, when you have few embryos, or in women that are older, we don't have that information. And that information is important if we want to do it as a routine. So we can say that in general it is better, but we are not so sure if for some specific subgroups it is really better. And there is low quality evidence suggesting that a blastocyst transfer may be associated with very preterm birth. And this is information that should be considered, discussed with patients. Finally, a moderate quality of evidence shows that it is probably associated, blastocyst transfer is probably associated with more cancellation rates. And this is possible only if our embryo lab is prepared to go to blastocyst stage. So if our embryo lab is not prepared for that, it is probably not a good idea to go to blastocyst stage. But if it is, so it could be something that we should consider, of course, not considering only the effectiveness, but also all the other information that I shared a few minutes ago. So finally, is extended culture to blastocyst stage really the best choice in all cycles? Well, not sure. Blastocyst transfer is a good choice in general population if the embryo lab is prepared. Poor responders or low number of available embryos, well, we have uncertainty here. And my suggestion is keep researching and debating about it, because we don't have enough or definitive conclusions about it. So this is it. I hope it helps. This information helped you to keep discussing about it, to keep researching about it. And well, it was a pleasure to be here with you today. Thanks again for the organization to inviting me to participate in this great congress. Thanks a lot and goodbye.
Good day to all. I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me to share with you my opinion regarding PGT-A. And the title of our presentation today is PGT-A, the most consequential add-on to IVF of them all. So the story of PGT-A, or the concept, starts with this observation, showing that when women age increase, there is a decrease in live birth rate during IVF. There is an increase in abortion rate, miscarriage rate, concomitantly with the increase in aneuploidy of the embryo.